Right now, your biggest struggle is not outside of you, it's inside your mind, the overthinking, the fear, the constant worrying, the thoughts that keep repeating late at night. You smile in front of people, but inside, your mind feels exhausted. You keep fighting silent battles nobody sees, thinking about the future, thinking about mistakes, thinking about everything that could go wrong, and slowly, peace feels far away, rest feels impossible. Because even when your body is still, your mind keeps running. But listen carefully, Jesus is saying, my child. The battle in your mind is about to end. You were never meant to carry this much fear alone. You were never meant to live in constant anxiety. You were never meant to be trapped in endless overthinking. Jesus says, my child. I want to replace your confusion with peace. Right now, your thoughts may feel louder than your faith, your fears may feel stronger than your hope, but that does not mean fear is winning, because I am still with you, even in the middle of your mental exhaustion, even in the middle of your sleepless nights, even in the middle of your silent breakdowns. Jesus is saying, my child. I see every battle you fight internally. I see the pressure you hide from others, I see the tears you don't show, I see the moments when you feel mentally tired of everything, and I need you to understand this. You are not weak for feeling overwhelmed, you are human, and you have been carrying too much for too long. Jesus says, my child. Give your heavy thoughts to me. Because some things are not meant to be solved through overthinking, some things require trust, some things require surrender, some things require peace instead of control. Right now, you are trying to predict everything. Control everything, prepare for every possible outcome, but that constant pressure is draining your spirit. Jesus is saying, my child. You do not have to carry tomorrow today. You do not need every answer immediately, you do not need to solve your whole future overnight, you only need to take the next step, and trust that I will guide the rest. Because peace does not come from knowing everything, peace comes from trusting that you are not alone, and slowly, your mind will begin to calm, the fear will lose its power, the confusion will fade, and clarity will return to you. Jesus says, my child. This storm in your mind will not last forever. There is healing coming for your thoughts, rest coming for your heart, calmness coming for your spirit, and soon, you will breathe differently, think differently, live differently, not controlled by fear anymore, but guided by peace. If you are ready for peace to enter your mind and heart, type Amen and release your worries to God. Now, even if the battle has not fully ended yet, something inside you begins to change, quietly, slowly, but powerfully. Jesus is saying, my child. Healing often begins gently, before you even realize it. You may start noticing small signs. Your thoughts don't feel as heavy as before, you don't panic as quickly, you don't replay every fear over and over again, and for a moment, you experience calm, maybe only for a few minutes at first, but it's there, and that peace is the beginning of healing. Jesus says, my child. I am teaching your mind how to rest again. You may also notice this, things that once triggered fear no longer affect you the same way. You start responding differently, more calmly, more wisely, more patiently, because your mind is no longer living in constant survival mode. Jesus is saying, my child. You are becoming stronger than your fears. At this stage, you begin protecting your peace more carefully. You stop giving energy to every negative thought, you stop reacting to every worry immediately, you start choosing what deserves your attention. And that changes everything. Jesus says, my child. Not every thought deserves your belief. Because fear speaks loudly, but truth speaks peacefully, and now, you are learning the difference. You may still have difficult moments, healing is not instant, some days will still feel heavy, some nights will still feel emotional, but even then, you recover faster, you calm down sooner, you return to peace more easily, and that is progress. Jesus is saying, my child, do not ignore how far you've come. Because there was a time when every thought overwhelmed you, every fear controlled you, every problem felt impossible, but now, you are learning to breathe again, to trust again, to live again without constant fear, and little by little, your mind is becoming a safer place for you. Jesus says, my child, peace is returning to you. If you feel your mind slowly healing and becoming calmer, type Amen and continue trusting the process. Now, as healing begins inside you, something else is happening too. Certain things are leaving your spirit, quietly, gradually, but permanently. Jesus is saying, my child, I am removing what has been hurting your mind. The fear that kept controlling you, the overthinking that exhausted you, the pressure you carried every day, the heaviness you could never fully explain, little by little, I am lifting it from you. Jesus says, my child, you were never meant to live under constant fear. At this stage, you may notice that some thoughts no longer feel as powerful. The things that once kept you awake at night do not affect you the same way anymore, because your spirit is becoming lighter, stronger, more peaceful. Jesus is saying, my child, I am breaking the cycle of fear inside you. Not every battle in your mind came from reality. Some came from worry, some came from past pain, some came from believing the worst before it even happened, and those thoughts drained your peace for too long. But now, you are learning something powerful. Not every fear is truth, not every negative thought deserves your trust. Jesus says, my child, stop believing every fearful thought that enters your mind. Because fear often speaks in extremes, it will never get better. Everything will go wrong. You are not strong enough. But those thoughts are not your future, and they are not your identity. At this stage, God is also removing emotional weight from your spirit, the guilt, the shame, the disappointment you've been carrying for too long, because you cannot heal, while constantly punishing yourself inside your own mind. Jesus is saying, my child, forgive yourself for the seasons when you struggled. You were learning, growing, surviving battles nobody else fully understood, and now, you do not need to keep carrying that heaviness anymore, because peace is replacing it, hope is replacing it, healing is replacing it. Jesus says, my child, your mind was never meant to be a prison. It was meant to be a place of peace, a place of clarity, a place where faith becomes stronger than fear, and slowly, that is exactly what is happening inside you now. If you are ready to release fear, guilt, and overthinking, type Amen and welcome peace into your mind. Now, something feels different inside you, not perfect, but peaceful. The thoughts that once controlled you no longer have the same power. The fears that once overwhelmed you no longer feel impossible to handle, because peace is beginning to lead your life now. Jesus is saying, my child, this is what happens when you stop feeding fear. At this stage, you start waking up with less heaviness, you stop expecting the worst all the time, you stop creating painful scenarios inside your mind, and slowly, your nervous system begins to rest, your heart begins to soften, your spirit begins to breathe again. Jesus says, my child, peace is not the absence of problems. It is the presence of trust. Because your life may not suddenly become perfect overnight, challenges may still appear, unexpected moments may still happen, but now, you respond differently, calmer, wiser, stronger. You no longer let fear control every decision. You no longer let anxiety speak louder than your faith. Jesus is saying, my child, your peace is becoming stronger than your panic. And that changes everything. At this stage, you begin protecting your peace carefully. You stop giving energy to negativity. You stop over-explaining yourself to everyone. you stop carrying emotional weight that doesn't belong to you, because now, you understand something important. Not everything deserves access to your mind anymore, Jesus says, my child. Guard your peace carefully. Because peace is not weakness. It is strength under control, it is emotional maturity, it is trust in the middle of uncertainty, and as peace takes control of your life, you begin to enjoy things again, you laugh more naturally, you sleep more peacefully, you think more clearly, you feel present again, alive again, hopeful again. Jesus is saying, my child. This is the healing you prayed for. Not just external change, but internal freedom, freedom from constant fear, freedom from endless overthinking, freedom from emotional exhaustion, and now, you are finally becoming the version of yourself that peace can live inside. If you are ready to let peace guide your life instead of fear, type Amen and continue walking in faith.